500 years ago, an unrecognisable ship arrived in the port of Seville. Its crew was reduced to just 18 emaciated and starving men. But this ship just completed a voyage of huge importance. It changed the course of history and shaped the way we live, even today. It was 1522, and the Victoria had just become the first ship to circumnavigate the globe. This voyage opened up the last great ocean, created new trade routes, and revealed the true scale of our planet. It was a triumph of the human spirit, an epic tale of courage and endurance, starvation and mutiny, heroism and death. And it turned one man, Ferdinand Magellan, into one of the most celebrated explorers in the history of the world. But behind the legend of this great voyage of discovery lies another story. This is the Neo Victoria, a perfect replica of one of Magellan's ships. He lost me timing then. Concentrate.
But Paul, it is 1, 2, 3.
Okay. Thank you, Jose. That's Jose as the ship's captain. He's figured out already I can't count. Nearly 500 years on, this modern replica is circling the globe itself to celebrate one of the most challenging voyages of maritime history and the men who made that journey. As an adventurer myself, you know, I've climbed on Everest, spent 20 years in the most remote polar regions, yet the hardships I've known are nothing, just absolutely nothing, compared to what those men experienced. Magellan's epic voyage is legendary, yet the real story is rarely told. He never intended to circumnavigate the world, but a series of extraordinary events turned what was an ambitious voyage into a truly historic one. Magellan's great voyage started on the 21st of September, 1519, when they set sail from Spain into the unknown. And the ship's chronicler, Antonio Pigafetta, recorded the moment. Find the right page. And he wrote this: the fleet, having been furnished with all that was necessary
for it, and having in the 5 ships people of diverse nations to the number of 241 in all, was ready to depart. And firing all the artillery, we set sail.
Uno, dos, tres. Uno, dos, tres.
For Magellan, the Captain General, this voyage was the realization of a dream that had been 5 years in the making. This tough and determined Portuguese was taking the biggest gamble of his life. Fame, fortune, and survival itself depended on the outcome of the expedition. Among the officers of the fleet was an ambitious ship's master called Juan Sebastian Elcano. This young Spaniard was to play a crucial role in the epic voyage. Magellan's goal was purely commercial, to find a Spanish trade route to the world's most precious commodity: spices. In the 16th century, they were worth more than gold, but for Spain, they were unreachable. In 1494, the Pope had divided the world between the two greatest sea powers on Earth. Spain had the trading rights over the western half of the world, while Portugal controlled the east, and with it the only known route to the unimaginable riches of the Spice Islands, the modern-day Moluccas. Magellan's bold idea was to find a westward route to the Spice Islands through Spanish waters. It was an incredible plan. Such a sea route had never been sailed before, and no one even knew if it existed. If he could find the elusive route, Spain would become the richest nation in the world, and Magellan would share that wealth. He commissioned a fleet of 5 robust trading ships, carracks, specially designed to navigate the treacherous waters of the open seas.
Well, are you sure you're taking the correct?
I think I'm doing the right. Look, it says 260, nearly.
0. All right.
It's close in a global context, it's not really.
Yeah, in an Earth context.
You're doing fine.
Yeah, what do you think?
Doing fine.
The steering mechanism was simple. The rudder connected to a wheel that was attached to a long wooden shaft. Holding the course was all about brute strength. I'm actually on course at the minute, but it's not very easy. You know, on a modern boat, there's a lot of feedback between the rudder and the tiller, or the wheel. This thing's called a whipstaff arrangement, and it's not easy to stay on course at all, even in calm conditions like this. I'm on course at the minute. The course that Magellan was planning would take him beyond charted waters into the unknown. It was a journey that many believed was impossible.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I'm just talking about Magellan. They're off on the fleet on this great journey to get all these incredibly valuable spices. And I just want to talk to you about how easy or hard it must have been to get them.
Well, very, very difficult because obviously there were no charts of any description.
And I understand it wasn't even on the maps those days.
No, there was no maps, proper maps really. It was big of the map here, which is from about the same period.
Okay.
As you can see, this is a bit of the Brazilian coast.
Okay.
A few of the islands in the Caribbean already plotted by Columbus and his followers. And then this blob of land, which it finishes here.
Oh, crikey.
There's
So
south of Cape of Good Hope, but not much. So
Sure.
this was an unknown area in those days for the map makers. You know,
wasn't it? Basically completely unknown. What a great act of faith that there might even be a way through it. It really was an incredible leap of faith, because as far as anybody knew, Magellan's proposed route was completely blocked by the vast South American continent. According to accounts from the time, Magellan claimed that he knew of a passage below the landmass of South America, and that would take the fleet through to the Spice Islands. Or maybe he did know, or maybe the whole thing was nothing but a supreme gamble. Whatever the truth, he kept it close to his chest. Magellan never revealed the source of his belief in the existence of a passage, but it probably came from rumours that abounded in the secretive world of 16th century navigators.
The Captain General did not wholly declare the voyage which he wished to make, lest the people from astonishment and fear refused to accompany him on so long a voyage as he had in mind to undertake, in view of the great and violent storms of the ocean sea, whither he would go.
Decision to keep the crew in the dark was extremely dangerous, and it would come close to destroying the entire mission. So what was it about this obsessive and determined man that drove him to take such an incredible risk? Manuel Villas-Boas is a direct descendant of Magellan and a bit of an expert on his famous ancestor. In trying to understand the man himself, how would you describe him?
A man of contrasts, I would say. He was physically short, very sure of himself, not an assuming man. He is not a man that one sees bragging about his aristocracy or anything like that. A man of few words, a man who obviously paid attention to his family and cared about his family. Very little more is known. The man disappears behind the project.
One thing that is known about Magellan is that he spent 8 years as a soldier with the Portuguese fleet in the Indian Ocean. Here, he earned a reputation as a fighter, a risk-taker and a glory seeker, but returned home to less than a hero's welcome.
He arrives back in Portugal and he's slighted by the court. And he says, okay, I've been slighted. I'm going to do something which will prove these people completely wrong. I'm going to finish the task that Columbus started and didn't finish. And in the process, emulate what Vasco da Gama had done around Africa, I will do around South America.
In Magellan's youth, these two great navigators had risked everything in the search for spices and earned a place in history. And they inspired Magellan to claim for himself the last great untried sea voyage around South America. Achieving this extraordinary ambition became his obsession. But he must have had some self-doubts.
He must have. Leaders of such nature and of such expeditions are lonely by definition. These are lonely jobs. I don't think he ever let anybody understand that he was not quite sure exactly of the existence of the passage.
When finally he led the fleet south, it was the first time he had ever captained a ship. His first challenge was the notorious Atlantic, an ocean that had claimed many lives. On October the 3rd, 1519, the weather worsened.
Many furious squalls of wind and currents of water struck us head-on, and as we could not advance, and in order that the ships might not be wrecked, all the sails were struck. And in this manner did we wander hither and yon on the sea, waiting for the tempest to cease, for it was very furious.
I've been at sea in some really foul weather, but it's always been on a modern boat. And with that modern safety net that we have, satellite phones, satellite communication, satellite GPS, even emergency beacons, you press the button and you can get some help. Old boats like this, Magellan's boats, they had none of that. The sense of risk must have been absolutely enormous. On a ship like this, in big seas, there's a lot of rolling going on. They're quite rounded, these hulls, like an upturned shell.